Welcome back to Insights at DDLynn Designs, a unique twist in the ancient art of wire. So I thought we'd make an earring something like this. It's totally freestyle. I love these earrings. These were actually done with a 14 gauge round dead soft copper wire, and I am using a 16 gauge sterling silver wire. The wires measure 8 inches, and I have marked down, here's my little mark here. These are 1-inch squares, and I've marked down 1.5 inches from the top. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to bend both of my wires simultaneously. So I'm going to grab my 6-step bail making pliers, and I'm going to come at that mark, and I'm going to bend at the number 2. So 1 is the smallest, 2 is the next size up. I'm going to hold very firmly, and I'm pushing with my fingers back here as I'm rolling my wrist towards me, and I'm going to bend that all the way over. So I'm just bending it over. So you should have something like this. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure these out, and I'm going to use my previous earrings as a gauge. So if you can imagine that this bend here is the bend here, okay? So all I'm going to do is mark with my Sharpie, and then I'll tell you how long that is. So I'm going to mark that with my Sharpie. So from the bend, I'm going to get my other one, and these are mirroring each other, so they'll be exactly the same no matter which side you work on. And I can see that this is, from the bend of the wire, is just a little over 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to line this up from the bend of the wire, and I'm going to go a little over 3/4 of an inch. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to bend them in the opposite direction. And by the way, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe and help my channel grow. It takes 1 second to give me a thumbs up, so I'd really appreciate that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the number 2 again, and I'm going to come right at the mark. So the mark is like in the middle of my pliers, and I'm going to use my finger because I want you to see this, and I'm going to bend it all the way over. Now this is a 16 gauge silver, so I have to really give it some good girth. So we're going to have something like that. Okay? And I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm going to put the mark in between my pliers, and then I'm going to turn it over so that you can see, and I'm going to bend it over. So these should match up. I'm going to bend this one in just a little bit more. Just pushing it in. Like that. So you want them pretty parallel and straight. So now I'm going to take my little guide here, because I didn't write any of this down, you guys. Everything that I do is totally freestyle. So I'm looking at where my second bend is, and now I'm going to line this up from my third bend, and I'm going to mark my wire on the outside of that bend. And that's going to give me, let me blow this up. So from the bend in the wire to the line on my 1-inch square, that's almost 1.25 of an inch. So I'm going to put this down, and from my mark where my bend in the wire is to the line of the 1-inch square, it's almost 1.25 inches. And then I'm just going to line them up. Let me turn this over. These are marks from something else I was going to do with this wire, so please ignore these other marks. you see down here. Just want to make sure I'm on the same. Now I'm going to use my number 4. So I'm going to use my number 4 to bend the wire in the opposite direction, and I'm going to come above the mark. Let's see. So that mark is sitting on the outside of my barrel. And I'm going to bend that all the way around. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. It's going to be sitting on the outside of my barrel. Let me take this screen size down. And oops, I almost went in the wrong direction, you guys. That would have not been good. Let me turn this around. And I'm going to bend it. So let's see what we got going here. This should be pretty spot on. Now my last one, I'm going to line this up. Don't have it lined up right. Okay, so that's going to work out to be just a little over 1 1/4 of an inch. So it's in between 1 1/2 and 1 1/4 of an inch right here. So I'm going to do the same thing here. It's in between the 1 1/4 and the 1 1/2 inch mark. This time I'm going to use my biggest barrel, which is the number 6. And I'm going to put this in the middle. Actually, I'm going to push that mark right to the outside. Okay? And I'm going to bend it around. And I'm going to swing it all the way up. Swing it up like that to where it's flush with this inside one. So we have that. This is going to be a really big earring. I wanted it big. So same thing here. Let's see, I had this one on the outside. Going to bend it all the way up and swing it around. So we have this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hammer. And then we're going to bring them together like this. We're going to start rocking them together. But I need room to hammer. I'm going to keep this one here because I want that shape in there. I'm just pushing it up, kind of crossing it over a little bit. This is really thick wire. Okay, so now I'm going to get my hammering block and my hammer. And I'm going to start hammering from the bottom. And I'm going to start to flare it out. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I got to open this up. I'm hitting my other one. And that's okay. I'll correct any marks that are in it because I'm going to hammer those too. This one I kind of beat up a little bit. So I'm going to turn it over and correct that on the other side. Okay, let's take a look at this one. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just hammering these, giving some texture to them. This I'll sand out with my drill or my sanding block. Silver sands out pretty quick. So now I'm going to open this up a little bit without compromising it too much. Then I'm going to start hammering this. Turn it around. I'm hammering all the bends. Okay. So we got that. I need to open this up a little bit. This is really thick wire. Then I'm going to texture them. Since I made so many dings, I'm always going to work with what I have. So I will texture these. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring these sides together. You can have any shape you want. I'm just going to pull this up, and then I'm going to squeeze this in. And I'm just bringing them in. Just bringing them into each other. So I'm going to pull this up. And I'm just squeezing them in. Okay, let's take a look. Bring that down a little bit. So that looks pretty good. They all look a little beat up, but that's okay. We're going to texture them. So now I'm going to bring this one down, swinging it down. This is the top, okay? The top of the earring. I'm going to swing this one down. I'm just holding firmly and shaping that wire in. So we've got that. So now I'm going to bend these legs here, and I'm going to bend them in right about here where it's crossing over a little bit. And I'm going to use my number 1 on my 6-step bail making pliers. So let me match these bottoms up. Okay, one's a little bit shorter, so I'll have to take that into consideration. So let's measure these out. Bring them together, and I'm going to trim them so that they're even in length. And I save every little bit of my silver. I have a little silver box. My voice is shot, you guys. I was gone. So here's my little silver box. And what I'll do is I'll take this to a Smith, silversmith, or a jewelry store, and they'll give me, less than what cost is, obviously, maybe 10 cents on the dollar, but it's better than nothing, right? Okay, so now I'm gonna mark, because I'm thinking about looking for my Sharpie. Let me get all this paraphernalia out of the way. All right, where is my Sharpie? I don't know. Here it is, right in front of my face. So I want to look at these. I want this to bend, right? So I'm bringing this up to give myself an idea of where I want to bend it. That's why I'm squeezing this wire and crossing it over. And the same thing here. This is where I want to mark it. So that looks pretty good. And then we'll texture them. So I'm going to get my smallest, and I'm going to come behind the mark, okay? And I'm going to turn the plier towards me as I'm holding the loop, and I'm going to adjust my wrist, pull my plier out, and swing that all the way in to where it crosses like that. Do the same thing with this one. Get my number 1. And I'm going to start swinging that in. Adjust my wrist as I'm holding firmly and swinging it all the way in. So we've got this. Okay. So now, before we do the bottom, we're going to work on the top. And I'm going to do this with my hand initially. And I'm really squeezing that wire over. I would work, if you want a lot of definition in the wire, I would work with a 16 gauge copper, because it won't be as dramatic if you're using a smaller gauge. The hammering just won't be as dramatic looking, but it doesn't mean it's bad or good. It just means whatever, look that you're desiring, that's really what that's all about. So I'm going to swing this in, same thing. Let's see, those look pretty good to me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing this up, and I'm going to use my number 1. And I'm going to come in between here where that bend is. And I'm going to swing this wire around. I'm using my hand. I want to keep my wires parallel to swing that up and over. And then I'm going to curl this wire in. So we have that. Same thing here. I'm going to swing this wire up and over. So here's what we got. It's just a lot of bending. You can really do anything you want, any shape you want. I'm kind of playing with these a little bit and adjusting them, because I'm going to come in and texture them once I get my shape that I like. Just pushing that down more. Okay. That looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flare out this tip, and I'm going to do that with I'm hoping these are strong enough to do it. If not, I'll change pliers. These are flat on one side. So they're flat nose on one side and they're round nose on the other. And the beauty of having that in a plier, specifically when you're making a loop, and I can feel my voice going, you guys. I don't know if I mentioned I spent 5 days at my dad's talking to his wife for that period of time, and I lose my voice really easy. It's a long story. I used to sing, and I have vocal nodules, so I lose my voice really easy. And vocal nodules, if you're curious, are like big calluses on your vocal cords back in my crazy singing days. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to flatten that tip down as I'm rolling it towards me. And I am putting a significant amount of pressure because This is a 16 gauge sterling silver wire, which is much harder than copper. And I just want to give it some nice little flare and definition on the end, and I don't want it flush, and I'll show you here in a minute. So we have this beautiful little point here, and I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm pressing really hard. I'm flattening that tip as I'm rolling the plier towards me, because I'm rolling off the tip and deliberately bending it. So now this one got a little flat here. What I do with that is I get my file. This is a 180 grit file, and I'm just going to bring it to a point. And let's see. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to buff it while I have an opportunity. Before I make my loop, I'm going to make sure that it's nice and clean and smooth. And this is really when you want to do that. And as I mentioned, I'm going to texture these where I got all my little dings. And we're going to be using the ball side of the chasing hammer. Silver really buffs out so easy. It's pretty amazing. Okay, so let's take a look at these. All right, so now I'm going to make a loop up here. It's not going to be as big as this one. So it's going to be a little bit smaller. And I'm going to use my number 2, and I'm going to come behind. So I have the tip. The tip sticking out in between the pliers, okay? So I'm going to get in a better working position for myself, and I'm going to work away from myself with that tip sticking out, and I'm just going to roll this in. Now, I am of the mind, and I always do this, a little bit of each side so I can match them up. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to match them up. Then I'm going to take my plier coming towards me, and I'm going to roll. I'm going to start rolling this up to make my top loop. I'm going to stop there. Same thing here. I'm going to start rolling it up to make my top loop. Let's see what we got. Those are pretty close. So I'm going to tighten this one up. This is one stiff wire, y'all. So now I'm going to start making my adjustments to center this up. And that's simply by rocking sides down, sides up. This has got to come up here. So I start getting more of a center. There's many different ways to do this. This is just totally freestyle. I'm going to rock this one down more. And I'm just playing with them for right now because we're going to be hammering that top. This one looks pretty good. You always want to turn your work around and around so that you can see your symmetry. Top's got to come down a little bit here. Just a lot of playing. So now on the bottom, so what we're going to do on the bottom is we're going to bend and then flatten. We're gonna hammer this part here. So we're gonna bend it in, and I'm looking at this already and saying, okay, I need to open it up so I have some working room. All right. All right, so I want to bend right about here, which is kind of like midway. So if this is your loop, here's your loop from this point to this point, right? So it's over 1/2 inch long. I want to bend about midpoint here, which is kind of in between. So I'm going to mark right there. And that's going to be just a little under 1/2 inch. So I'm going to do the same thing here with this one. And I'll probably need to cut some of that tail off, maybe not. So I'm going to come in with my smallest loop, my smallest barrel. I'm going to open that up. And I have my mark on the inside, meaning facing towards me, of the barrel, okay? And I'm simply going to just bend that down, straight down. And we'll make some adjustments. So we've got something like this. And I'm going to do the same thing here on the inside, and I'm going to bend it straight down. So that's what we have so far. So now I'm going to start texturing before I hammer and cut these off. I may even curl these in. I don't know yet. I'm thinking about how I'm going to change it up in comparison to this one, because sometimes I don't like the exact same thing. It's all personal preference, you guys. So these need to be in opposite directions so I know where I'm going to start texturing. And I'm going to get my chasing hammer, and I'm going to start to create a hammered look on the entire piece. So I'm going to hold firmly, and I'm tapping on the outside and inside of that wire, on the edge. Do you see that already? We're getting that beautiful texture. Look, it's going to create a lot of light on the earring. And I'm just going to start tapping down the arm. And I'm on the edge, on the inside and the outside edge. I'm holding my hammer on an angle. So none of these marks are going to matter, because all of this texture, I'll show you before and after. You see the difference? So pretty, especially with sterling. Sterling looks just awesome when it's textured. Really, really pretty. And I'm just going to continue to do that. I'm going to open these up a little bit so I can get on that edge. I'm going to texture the entire earring. Now I'm not going to do down here yet until I decide on what I want to do with that. Okay, we're going to have to make some adjustments because we spread these apart. I might even cross these over, you guys. I'm always seeing things. I'm looking at what that would look like to cross that over. So let me tell you what's going through my head. The longest wire here, and then the round loop down here on the biggest. I'm looking at perhaps crossing them over. That would be really cool. Not sure yet. But if I can hold it for you, that's to give you an idea of how I can change the design. And then I would swing this part up to center it out more. It's just a thought for right now. Bend this down. But isn't that cool? What do you like best? I love the texture on the silver. Just love that. So I'm going to get my duckbill pliers and I'm just going to flatten this out because I could see the wire bowing up a little bit. So I want that nice and flat. So when I lay it against my board, it's nice and flat against the board. So let's do the other one. And I want to make sure I do it in the right direction. I'm going to bring this down. I need to finish this side. And I'm holding my wire very firmly against my hammering block. Okay, now I'm going to flatten this loop and I'm going to work on the curve. This is where we're going to put our hook or a bead. Still debating on changing this here. I just am not sure. Might do it later and keep it more simple for y'all. Okay, I'm gonna buff this, clean it up. If there's any high sides, because I'm not sure I want to texture that yet. So if you've been following me for a while, then you know I pretty much stop and make adjustments and fix things as I go. And this is a 180 grit. If you're new to my channel, they are construction grade sanding blocks. Now I am not going to texture the back. I'm going to buff this all out and I'm going to really sand them out later, but I just want to show you the technique. So that they're nice and clean in the back. And I'll be buffing these as I mentioned out more. So here's our first one, and then we'll start working on the bottom, and I'm still debating if I want to texture the top. I'm probably going to do it. So let me make sure I've got this in the right direction, because this is my front here. Okay, want to get them lined up. So let's go ahead and start here with our texturing. Open that up a little bit so I can get in there. See how it bows the wire up, and that's from the pressure, and that's why I get my duckbill and flatten them out. And I'm always doing the edge. I'm trying not to hit dead center on the wire. I don't want to flatten that wire out in the middle, meaning put a big ding down in it. I don't want to dip in the wire. So I'm really working on that edge. Okay, let's take a look at that. Now we're going to make some adjustments. And let's line them up. That's looking pretty good to me. Isn't that texture beautiful? I just love it. Okay, so let's go ahead and hammer this one. If you've noticed, I like to turn my piece as I'm flaring out the metal so that I have equal pressure as I'm going. I always tell people do whatever works for you, but it's good. Technique is everything in this art. And that's what I really encourage people to focus on, is not so much I want to make that thing, but how is it done? So let me take a look. We got to press this one in. We got to press this down. We might have to curl it up a little bit. So here's what we got, these two beautiful earrings. I'm going to smooth this out. Roll it in a little bit more. And I think I'm definitely going to texture the top. All right, let's see what we got. Two beautiful earrings, just beautiful. I'm going to be pushing this side down a little bit. I want to squeeze this one in. So I'm going to do that with my duckbill, if I can. Just squeezing it in a little bit more. There we go, much better. Let's take a look at that. Oh yeah, that's so much better. Let's squeeze this side in a little bit. Just a little bit. Good. Now I'm going to flatten this one out. And I'm also going to do this with my rubber mallet so that I don't compromise all that beautiful texture I put in there. Just kind of flattening it out. Still bowing out at the bottom a little bit, but we'll correct all that. So now I'm going to texture the top, and I want to roll this one in just a little bit more. I don't want my earring falling out. Better, much better. Do you see that? Just closed it off a little bit more. Make sure that they're both closed off equally. Now you could weave in beads in here. You could add a cabochon. It's really whatever you visualize. Now I didn't do it on these, okay? I'm probably going to add a really pretty, I already see blue, a beautiful faceted gemstone bead up here, just to add a little color. So I'm already thinking about that. On that edge. All right, let's take a look. See how light refracts when it's on the sterling when it's hammered. I'm just bending, flattening it out more. Okay, so now I'm looking at the bottom and I'm debating on whether or not I want to do this, where I'm going to flatten the wire and cut it, or if I want to loop it. I'm thinking about just looping it in versus that flat edge. I don't know. I'm torn. I was really, really torn. So let's see. Want to make sure they're the same length from the bend. This is sitting in between 3/4 and 1/2 inch. And this one I think is just a little bit longer. I could be wrong. No, they're the same. Often you get that illusion, you know, when you're looking at something, they look pretty much the same. So I think what I'm gonna do, you guys, I'm so debating. What do I want to do? Do I just want to roll that tip in gently on the bottom? Or do I want to hammer half of it and flatten it out? I need to have a visual. Give me a second. I want to draw something on a piece of paper, even though I can't draw, so that you guys always know my creative process, because I think it's really important when we're sharing what we're doing. I just drew on a piece of paper what it would look like to curl this tip in, and I didn't like it at all. And while I was doing that, I saw something else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing this in more right here. This is going to swing it in more. So I have more of a bend like that. Same thing here. Want to make sure they're the same. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, actually, you know what? I'm going to swing them all the way in first. And I just realized I need to do that in order to do what I'm thinking already. So I'm going to swing it all the way in like that. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. It'll all make sense. I hope. I hope. Okay, let me take a look at that. Now I'm going to take this here, this wire here, and I'm going to use my flat nose, and I'm actually going to measure because I want them to be as equal in length as possible. Trying to get all this paraphernalia out of my way. Where are the flat nose that I want? Okay. I want to bend these straight down again so I don't have to cut off any excess sterling wire, because I really don't want to cut it off. It's such a loss when we do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take here. So that looks like 1/4 inch. I'm going to mark at the 1/4 inch mark. So if the tip of my lead wire here is meeting the 1/4 inch mark, I'm going to mark on the line. So that's 1/4 inch, so I know where to bend. Now, I'm hoping this all turns out good. I'm going to, right at the mark, okay? Let me shrink this down. Right at the mark, and I think I'm going to come in on the inside of that mark. Or do I want to come all the way in? That would make it about 1/2 inch. Yep. I'm going to come in on the inside of the mark so that that mark is on the outside of my plier as I bend this straight down. Just like that. Oh my God, I love that. That's what I was looking at when I was drawing on my piece of paper. I'll show you my piece of paper because I can't draw worth a crap. But that's what I was thinking of, that long leg there to curl it in, and I hated it. And that's when I started saying, well, what if I bent it back in and then bent it down again? Love that. I love that. I hope you guys like that. So same thing here. I'm going to come in with it to the outside, and I'm going to bend it straight down. And if you're working with 16 gauge, you're going to have some muscle. So let's turn this around. Oh, I really like that. Now it just gave it more design and element look, and I don't know what the words are, but I really like that. So I need to make sure that this is straight, and it's not. So I need to bend that up a little bit more, and then this down. Oh, I like that so much better, guys and gals. Okay. I'm going to open this up just to get in there a little bit. I want to squeeze that in a little bit. Okay, let's line these up on my board. Oh, I'm getting some weird light in my window. My eyes just went crazy on me. I can't see right. I'm getting so much reflective light to see what I'm doing here. Okay, let's take a look. Oh my gosh, I'm starting to get what's called an ocular anomaly. And my eyes are seeing double because of the reflective light. You guys are going, wow. Is there anything else happening there, Dee Dee? Okay. Keep moving my head around to see. Okay, I got to take these out of the light because I am getting some serious ocular little weird things going on. So I got to get in a dark area here. That's why I'm moving away from the camera. All right, so now what I'm going to do, and we'll be done. And then all you got to do is make your hooks. This normally wouldn't take that long if you're going to do it yourself. I'm going to turn this over because I want to hammer on the back side. I'm going to hold my earring on an angle. I literally have it lifted up because I want this on an angle. And I'm going to start hammering and flattening it out. And I'm going to flare it out. And I'm dragging the hammer away from me. I'm going to have to stand up, you guys. I cannot see very well right now. So let's see what we got. So I'll be filing and shaping this. Okay, let's do this one. We're going to work on the back side. I'm holding this up. All right, I'm going to match them up because I can't see what I'm doing here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten this out. And then I'm going to shape them, buff them, file them. This is going to be a great earring. I think these are going to be mine. Now you could weave. Do I have anything to show you that with? I don't. I thought, oh, I did. Hold on, you guys. I'm back. So these are just silver filled. This is wire I bought many years ago, and I don't use it anymore. But when I have extra from my little blowout rack. So this is an example of the bead on the earring. I actually added it to the ear hook. And this is an example of weaving each connecting point together. Just gives it a different look. Now this is a 20 gauge. Is it 20 or 18? No, this was an 18 gauge silver filled wire. So, and this is 16 gauge. So you see the difference? So I just wanted to give you some more inspiration. I'm always going to give you inspiration. So now I'm going to get my file, and I'm going to file on the top first, just to smooth everything out. Then I'm going to round out this bottom a little bit, just softening the edges. I'm not going to texture the bottom. I'm not thinking of that, but I will texture here a little bit more. I'm going to buff this out so it's nice and smooth and polished. Going down on a 45-degree angle to soften that edge there. Isn't that pretty? What do you think, y'all? You could bring this in smaller. It's whatever you visualize, everybody. I'm just here to share. Share the love. Straightening that out a little bit. You can round out the bottoms if you don't want it more, squared across. So I'm going to come in here, buff that out, and then I'm going to texture this right here on both of them. And we will make a quick pair of, and I'm thinking of using, if they'll fit, if the holes are big enough, faceted kyanite or faceted iolite. Look how pretty. Do you like them? I hope you like them, you guys. All right, so now I'm just gonna come back in here, hold very firmly at the tail, and I just wanna texture the side and the top. And I pushed it as I was doing that because I didn't want to change or compromise my shape there. Okay, much better. So let's make some hooks. Let's take a look at these really up close, because I've still got weird things going on with my eyeballs. It's really weird. And that's why I know it's an ocular anomaly. I'm a person that needs to know. I research everything. I question everything. I don't take anything for absolute. I just take it as information and do my own due diligence. So I know a little bit about a lot of things. Let's just put it that way. I'm a very curious person. So here's our beautiful earrings. Let's blow this up. So now we're going to add, and I didn't want this to be an hour, but it is. So I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to get myself, and I sure hope I have a little bit of 20 gauge sterling left. I'm thinking I don't, you guys. I'm almost out of my entire silver supply. I've got square. I can't use 18 round. That's way too thick for an ear. So I may be in trouble here. I'm looking in my box. I got half round. What is that? I could use 16 gauge half round, or I'm gonna have to use pre-made hooks, because that is way too thick. Way. I say that a lot. Yeah, and all I've got is a 20 gauge, that square around. Oh my gosh, I do have round. I wonder why that says square. Unless my eyes are really playing with me, and they're not. Okay, so I'm going to cut myself 4 inches, and I'm going to cut that in half. So here's my 4 inches of 20 gauge round. Didn't even know I had that. I thought that was square. It was marked wrong. And I'm going to cut these so that they're 2 inches each. Oh, crud. I cut 5 inches. Well, that's a waste of silver, isn't it? Maybe I'll make a pretty loop then. So I will cut these at the 2.5 inch mark then. Okay. So we're going to add a bead, and I'm hoping that one of these, I'll be right back. I got to see if I got a bead that will fit, and I don't want to keep you guys on hold. So I didn't have any kyanite or kyanite. I'm always being corrected. Tomato, potato. But I have some 4mm faceted amethyst. So I'm going to use those on the earring hook like I did here. Okay? So all I'm going to do is get my flush end, and if it's not flush, I'm just going to flatten it out, because I hate to waste sterling. It's so expensive now. I don't know if you guys noticed, but sterling silver and gold, God, gold was like $3,400 an ounce. And sterling got up to 36 at one point, and that means that we're paying roughly $45 to $48 an ounce to get sterling wire, because they charge us for the process. Okay, making a little loop. Same thing over here on this one, and then I'm going to show you, instead of rolling back on your plier, I'm going to show you a cool little technique. You probably already know it, but if you don't, that's okay. Let's see, what size did I use here? The number 1 or the number 2? I used the number 1. Now, there are different ways to straighten up your loops to make them perfect lollipops. You can take your pliers, swing it around, and then push the wire back. Or this is so easy. You just grab right here. And you just do this. Push. And you have the perfect little lollipop loop. Just going to tighten that up. Okay, now before I'm going to make the earring, because you can't have your little gemstone sliding off, and it will not slide off, by the way. It can't. Can't go around this bend. Get stuck right there. So I'm going to put my bead on first, my little amethyst bead. And I can't seem to find the hole. There it is. Now I am going to hook these. It's up to you. I don't want the opening facing the front of my earring. I want it to be facing the back, if that makes sense. This is the front of my earring, so I'm going to turn it on the side. My hook is going to be like that, so I want the opening of the hook in the back so that you don't see it. So that means that I need to bend the loop in my fish hook. Here's the back, right, where the loop is. I need to bend it away from me. And I'm going to do my number 5. So I'm going to put this earring here. So here's the ear hook. Make sure that it's parallel, that the wire is perpendicular. And I want the bend in the hook to go towards the back of the earring hook. Does that make sense? So all I'm going to do is this is such a waste of wire, you guys. I'm so bummed. I cut way too much. So I'm just going to bend it back and then swing it in. I'll make jump rings out of it. So here's our little earring hook. Then I'm going to straighten out, because it's kind of scooping in the little loop. I'm going to straighten that out. I'm just going to swing it back and then push that in. So we have this nice clean little hook. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Come in, make a perfect little lollipop. Put my bead in here. I've got the bend in the loop facing away from me. I'm going to get my number 5. Make sure my wire is parallel. It's perfectly on a straight plane. Okay, I don't want my loop cocked off on the side. And then I'm just going to bend this around and swing it in. That's it. That's all we're doing. And then I'm going to straighten this out a little bit. Now you could come in with half round wire, decorate these up. I make a lot of decorative earring hooks. So here's what we got. We got our 2 darling little beaded earring hooks. And now I'm going to hammer. You want to hammer these. I'm going to hold this at the lip of my hammering block. Push my bead down. Same thing here. Now, depending on how long you want your earring backs, that's just a personal preference. I like to swing my earring in first, like this, kind of like a shepherd's hook. Then, right where the loop ends, I like to take my pliers and I like to kick that out. Like so. So I'm going to swing this in. And then I'm going to kick it out. So we have our 2 little hooks, our little ear hooks. These are way too long, so I'm going to cut them down to 1/4 of an inch. And we're done, ladies and gents. And I really can't do anything with that excess wire, sadly. So that was a waste. 2 inches would have been perfect to add a bead to an ear hook. So now I'm just going to open them up a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is sometimes I hammer these, but sterling silver wire 20 gauge is much harder. I'm just going to soften that tip with my buffer. Once these are in the tumbler, these will be baby butt smooth. But you can hammer them. I typically do that with all my ear hooks, but I'm just not going to with these today. So you can really decorate these. I called them the Year of the Snake because in China it is the Year of the Snake with their astrological chart. I am the Year of the Dog. My birth chart in Chinese makes me the Year of the Dog. So here are 2 beautiful hooks. And all I'm going to do now is open these up and slip them on my earrings. And you could add jump rings if you want them longer. That's another really good selling technique if you're doing a show. Look how pretty those are. If you don't like them long back here, then cut them shorter. Open that up. Slip my earring on. Might have to open that up a little bit more. Nope, I'm good. And there we go. There's our beautiful, whatever design you want them to call them. I think they're very contemporary but unique. So I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. Please give me your feedback. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, I'm always happy to get back with all of you. I wish for all of you all that you wish for yourselves. May you have a wonderful, magical wire wrap day. Bye for now.